Among all the figures in the Bible, few have a journey as striking as Moses. He not only led the Hebrew people from slavery in Egypt to the Promised Land, but was also the man chosen to receive the law directly from God. His life became a symbol of liberation, faith, and obedience. Moses is remembered as prophet, lawgiver, leader, and intercessor. His story is not just ancient narrative, it still inspires millions today. In this video, we will follow Moses' life in detail. From his birth under Egyptian oppression and his divine calling at the burning bush, to the great signs that marked his leadership. We will also reflect on the spiritual meaning of his path and the legacy he left. To understand the greatness of Moses' mission, we look first at his context. Exodus describes a time of heavy oppression upon the Hebrews in Egypt. After the death of Joseph, the Hebrew governor who once saved Egypt from famine, a new Pharaoh arose who did not know Joseph. Seeing the Israelites grow in number and strength, Pharaoh feared a rebellion or an alliance with enemies. Egypt then turned the Hebrew people into slaves. Forced labor, building cities, carrying bricks, and suffering under harsh whips. Yet Israel multiplied. Pharaoh decreed something drastic. All newborn Hebrew boys must be killed, thrown into the Nile. That cruelty aimed to stop their growth, but paradoxically opened the way for Israel's greatest deliverer, Moses. Moses was born in this oppression. His parents, from the tribe of Levi, saw something special in him. His mother hid the baby for 3 months, and when she could no longer, she prepared a basket of reeds, sealed it with pitch, and placed the child in the Nile, entrusting his life to divine providence. What could have been the end became the beginning of a grand mission. Pharaoh's daughter found the basket, felt compassion, and adopted the child. The Hebrew boy condemned to death grew up in Pharaoh's palace, receiving Egypt's finest education. By providence, Moses' own mother was called to nurse him, caring for him in his earliest years. That bond shaped his identity and rooted him in the faith of the God of Israel, even as he grew within a pagan culture. Raised as a prince, Moses learned Egypt's highest arts: science, writing, military strategy, philosophy, and religion. Tradition says he became powerful in word and deed. Yet his heart remained tied to his people. He knew he was Hebrew, descendant of slaves under Egyptian tyranny. As years passed, he identified with their suffering. One day, seeing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, Moses intervened and killed the aggressor, hiding the body in the sand. The next day, when he tried to stop a fight between 2 Hebrews, one said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Pharaoh heard and sought to kill Moses, so he fled to Midian. In Midian he met Jethro and married Zipporah. He lived as a shepherd, far from Egyptian palaces. For 40 years he learned humility, patience, and dependence on God. What seemed like obscurity was preparation for a greater calling. While in Midian, Moses' first son was born, Gershom, meaning sojourner. Meanwhile in Egypt, the Hebrews' suffering grew. They cried out to God, and the Lord remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Near Mount Horeb, as Moses led the flock, he saw a bush on fire that did not burn up. He drew near, and God called, "Moses, Moses." Trembling, he answered, "Here I am." God revealed the mission, to deliver Israel from slavery and lead them to the Promised Land. Astonished, Moses asked how he could do such a thing. He raised objections. "Who am I to go to Pharaoh? What if they do not believe me? I have never been eloquent. God answered each one, "I will be with you. I am who I am." And he gave signs: the staff that became a serpent, the hand that turned leprous and was healed again. Still unsure, Moses received Aaron as a helper. Moses returned to Egypt and, with Aaron, told Pharaoh the divine command: "Let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh refused and made slavery even harsher, demanding the same number of bricks without providing straw. The people complained and turned against Moses. But God confirmed his plan, and the signs and wonders began. The plagues demonstrated God's power not only over Pharaoh, but over Egypt's gods, revealing that the Lord alone is sovereign. 1. Water to blood. The Nile, deemed sacred, became useless. 2. Frogs across the land. A symbol of fertility turned into a plague. 3. Gnats from the dust, afflicting people and animals. 4. Swarms of flies spreading chaos. 5. Death of livestock, with economic and religious impact. 6. Boils and sores. 7. Hail with fire, devastating the fields. 8. Locusts, consuming what remained after the hail. 9. Darkness for 3 days, while Israel had light. 10. Death of the firstborn, instituting the Passover. Before the last plague, God ordered each Hebrew household to sacrifice a lamb and place its blood on the doorposts, so the destroyer would pass over their homes. That night, death struck throughout Egypt, even Pharaoh's house. He finally yielded, and Israel departed quickly, taking goods and wealth, just as God had foretold to Abraham. Soon Pharaoh changed his mind and pursued them to the Red Sea. Israel panicked, trapped between sea and army. God told Moses to raise his staff. A strong wind opened a dry path through the waters. Israel crossed safely. The Egyptians were engulfed when the sea returned. Moses' song rose, "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation." After the Red Sea, Israel began a long journey through the wilderness toward the Promised Land. Water and food were scarce, complaints arose. Yet God provided miraculously. Bitter waters made sweet. Manna from heaven each day. Quail for meat. And water from the rock when Moses struck it. Each miracle showed their survival did not depend on human resources but on divine care. Still, ingratitude and murmuring marked the path, revealing how hard it is to trust fully. At Mount Sinai, God made covenant with Israel, shaping a holy nation from freed slaves. For 40 days and 40 nights, Moses remained in God's presence, receiving instructions for the people's spiritual, social, and moral life. He received the tablets of the law, the 10 Commandments, foundation of Judeo-Christian morality, reflecting God's holiness and his desire for Israel to live in communion with him. While Moses was on the mountain, the people fell into idolatry, fashioning a golden calf and worshipping it. Moses descended, broke the tablets in indignation, and interceded for the people. God also gave the pattern for the tabernacle, a sacred tent representing his presence among them. Every detail carried symbolic meaning. The Ark of the Covenant would hold the tablets, the manna, and Aaron's rod. Leading a multitude of former slaves was immense. Moses faced rebellions, criticism, and attempts to usurp his role. Often he fell to his knees, asking God for wisdom and strength. He was not only a guide but an intercessor, standing between the people and divine wrath. The people longed for Egypt, forgetting their bondage and idealizing the past. At Kadesh Barnea, the spy's fearful report led the nation to doubt God's promise. That generation was condemned to die in the wilderness, with only Joshua and Caleb to enter the land. Even Moses faced consequences. At Meribah, God told him to speak to the rock, but in anger he struck it with the staff. Because of that disobedience, Moses would not enter the promised land. Great as he was still human, subject to failure. Moses prepared his successor. Joshua, faithful and courageous, was chosen to lead after him. Moses repeated God's laws, renewed the covenant, and called the people to faithfulness. Deuteronomy preserves his final speeches. At the end, God led Moses to Mount Nebo, where he could behold the promised land. He would not enter it, yet he saw the promise fulfilled. Moses died there at 120, with vigor and clarity preserved. God himself cared for his burial in an unknown place, so Moses would not be exalted as an idol, but remained the Lord's servant to the end. His legacy runs deep. Lawgiver who shaped Israel's identity, prophet pointing to God's will and to the Messiah to come, leader through adversity, and intercessor standing for the people. His name resounds throughout Scripture, cited by Jesus and the apostles. Moses is not merely historical. He is an example of faith, courage, and obedience. His story teaches that God uses ordinary people for extraordinary missions. Born under persecution, raised in the palace of the enemy, exiled in the desert, he became the deliverer of God's people. As Moses led Israel to freedom, we are called to seek the true freedom that comes through Christ. When God calls, he himself equips and sustains.